It was a warm, sunny afternoon when little Mia decided to spend her lunch break at the park. She packed a small sandwich and a bottle of juice, looking forward to the quiet time away from her busy school day. She loved sitting under the big oak tree near the park bench, watching the birds and listening to the gentle rustle of the leaves. The world felt peaceful here. As she sat down with her lunch, she noticed a man sitting on the bench nearby. He was old, wearing tattered clothes, and looked tired. His face was wrinkled, and his eyes were sad. Mia could tell he was hungry. She felt a little uneasy, not because she was scared, but because she knew that sometimes people like him had a hard time getting by. The man looked up, and their eyes met. He gave Mia a faint smile, but it was clear that he didn't have much to smile about. Mia's heart went out to him. She looked down at her sandwich and thought for a moment. She had enough to eat, but what about him? Without hesitating, she stood up and walked over to him. "Excuse me, sir," Mia said softly, holding out half of her sandwich. "I don't think you've eaten. You can have this if you're hungry." The man blinked in surprise. "Are you sure?" he asked, his voice weak but kind. He looked at the sandwich and then at Mia, unsure if he should accept. Mia nodded, her face brightening with a gentle smile. "Yes, I'm sure. I have enough for myself, and you need it more than I do." The man's face softened, and for the first time, he smiled. A real smile. It was a small gesture, but to Mia, it felt like the right thing to do. The man took the sandwich from her with trembling hands and thanked her quietly. Mia returned to her bench, feeling good about what she had done. She finished her juice and watched the people in the park, her heart feeling warm as she thought about how she had helped someone today. Little did she know that this small act of kindness was about to lead her into a world of confusion and danger, a world she never imagined. The sun began to dip below the horizon, and Mia packed up her things, ready to head home. As she walked back toward the park entrance, she couldn't help but feel like she had made a difference, even if it was in a small way. She had helped a man in need. But little did she know that someone had been watching her. The black SUV parked at the far end of the park. Someone inside had seen everything. That night, as Mia sat at dinner with her family, she thought nothing more about the homeless man. She went on with her evening routine, feeling proud of herself. However, a sense of unease started to creep into her mind as the evening wore on. Was it just a coincidence that the man was there at the park when she decided to share her sandwich? And why had that SUV been parked so close to the park? She pushed those thoughts away. After all, she was just a kid trying to do something good. There was no harm in helping someone who needed it. But as the night deepened, Mia's peace would soon be shattered. The next morning, Mia woke up to an unexpected sound. A knock on her door. Her mom answered, and before Mia knew it, 2 police officers were standing in her living room, asking questions. The officers wanted to know all about her encounter with the homeless man from the park. Why did they need to know? Mia was confused. She had simply given him a sandwich. It wasn't a crime to be kind, was it? The officers were polite, but something about them felt cold. They weren't smiling or friendly. They seemed more serious, like something was going on that Mia didn't understand. They asked if she had noticed anything strange about the man, or if she had seen anyone else at the park. "No," Mia answered, her voice shaky. "I just gave him my lunch. That's all." The officers exchanged looks. "Are you sure?" one of them asked. "This man, is he a stranger to you?" "Yes," Mia said. "I don't know him. I just thought he needed help." The officers left soon after, but their visit left Mia feeling confused and a little scared. Why were the police so interested in her small act of kindness? Was there something wrong with helping someone who was hungry? As Mia sat quietly in her room, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. She hadn't done anything wrong. She had simply tried to help a person in need. But now she was beginning to wonder, what if this wasn't just about the sandwich? What if there was something bigger, something darker, that was linked to the man she had helped. She had no idea that this was just the beginning of a much bigger story, one that would turn her world upside down. As Mia stared out of her window, she saw the black SUV parked across the street. It had been there all night, and it was still there. Who was in that car? And why were they watching her? With every passing minute, Mia's sense of unease grew stronger. Something was coming, and she had no idea what it was. But she was about to find out, and it would change her life forever. The investigation begins. The next morning, Mia couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. It wasn't just the officer's visit the night before. It was the strange black SUV parked across the street. It had been there all night, and it hadn't moved. She stared out of her bedroom window, wondering who was inside and why they were watching her. Was it all connected to the man she had helped at the park? She couldn't help but wonder. As the morning went on, Mia tried to push the thoughts aside. She went to school, but she couldn't focus. Her mind kept drifting back to the events of the previous day. She couldn't understand why the police were so interested in her simple act of kindness. She had only offered a sandwich to a hungry man. There had to be more to the story, but what? At school, Mia's friends noticed that she seemed distant, not her usual cheerful self. They asked her what was wrong, but Mia couldn't explain. How could she? She wasn't sure herself. She kept thinking about the police officers' questions and the way they had looked at her, like they knew something she didn't. They had even asked about the man she had helped. They seemed almost desperate for information. The bell rang, signaling the end of the school day, and Mia quickly packed her things. She just wanted to get home. She needed to figure out what was going on. But as she stepped outside, she saw that the black SUV was still there. And now, it wasn't just parked across the street. It was parked directly in front of her house. Mia's heart skipped a beat. This couldn't be a coincidence. She hadn't seen anyone get out of the car, but it felt like someone was watching her. She could almost feel their eyes on her, even though she couldn't see anyone inside. She didn't know what to do. Should she tell her mom? Should she ask the police again? But she wasn't sure who to trust anymore. As Mia walked up the driveway, the door to the SUV opened, and a tall man stepped out. He was wearing sunglasses and a dark suit, but his serious expression was clear even from a distance. He didn't look like a regular person. He looked like someone who was used to being in control, someone who wasn't afraid of anything. The man stood by the SUV for a moment, watching her. Mia froze. Her heart raced as she tried to decide what to do. She could feel her hands shaking, but she tried to keep calm. This was getting out of hand. She quickly turned and entered the house, trying to act normal. She didn't want to let the man know that she was afraid, but she couldn't help it. Inside, Mia found her mom in the kitchen, preparing dinner. "Mama," Mia said, her voice trembling. "There's a man outside, standing by that black SUV. He's been there for hours. I don't know what he wants, but I think it's something to do with yesterday." Her mom paused what she was doing and gave Mia a concerned look. "What do you mean, sweetie? Is everything okay?" Mia explained everything. The sandwich, the police visit, the SUV. Her mom listened carefully, but Mia could tell that she wasn't fully convinced. "It's probably nothing, Mia," her mom said, trying to calm her down. "Maybe he's just a neighbor or someone passing through. It's not unusual for cars to park near our house." But Mia wasn't convinced. She could feel her gut telling her that this was more than just a coincidence. The man in the SUV wasn't just some random passerby. And the police asking so many questions. It didn't make sense. She felt like there was something important she was missing. That evening, Mia's mom decided to call the police again to check if anything was wrong. She didn't want to alarm Mia, but she could tell that her daughter was scared. Maybe it was nothing, but something didn't sit right with her either. As Mia sat quietly in her room, staring out of the window, she noticed the SUV once again. The man was still standing by the car, talking into a walkie-talkie. Mia couldn't make out the words, but it was clear that he was talking to someone. What was going on? Why was this man here? And why was he watching her? Just then, Mia heard a soft knock at her door. She turned, expecting to see her mom, but instead, the man in the dark suit was standing in the doorway. His presence sent a chill down her spine. "I need to speak with you, Mia," he said in a low, calm voice. "It's important." Mia's heart skipped a beat. This was it. This was the moment she had been dreading. She didn't know who this man was, but she knew that whatever was happening, it had something to do with the kindness she had shown to the homeless man in the park. The man stepped into her room, and Mia could feel the tension in the air. She tried to keep her voice steady as she asked, "What do you want with me?" He smiled slightly, though it didn't reach his eyes. "I think you might know more about that man than you realize." Mia's stomach twisted. She had a feeling that this was only the beginning of something much bigger, something that could change her life forever. The shocking discovery. Mia's heart was pounding as the man in the dark suit stepped closer to her. His eyes locked onto hers. She could feel the weight of his gaze, and for a moment, it felt as though time had stopped. Her mind raced, trying to make sense of the situation. Who was this man? Why was he here? And why did he keep asking about the homeless man she had fed? Mia could barely breathe as the stranger spoke again, his voice low and measured. "You've seen the man I'm asking about," he said. "You helped him, didn't you? Do you know who he really is?" Mia stared at him, confused. "What are you talking about?" "He was just a homeless man at the park. I gave him a sandwich. That's all." The man's expression didn't change. "It's never just that, Mia. Nothing ever is." He paused for a moment, watching her closely. "You see that man. He's not who he appears to be." Mia's head spun. She couldn't understand what he was saying. The man she helped had been kind, humble, and thankful. She had no idea who he really was, but it hadn't mattered. All that mattered was that he was hungry, and Mia had shared her lunch with him. But now, as the stranger continued to speak, she began to realize that there was much more to this story than she had ever imagined. "He's not just a homeless man," the stranger said, his voice now tinged with something darker. "He's part of something much bigger, something that could put you and your family in danger." Mia's chest tightened, and she took a step back, suddenly feeling a sense of unease that she couldn't shake off. "Danger? What do you mean?" she asked, her voice trembling. The man's gaze softened, though his words were still firm. "I can't go into the details, but trust me, Mia. This is bigger than you, bigger than your kind gesture. You've unknowingly become involved in something you don't fully understand." Mia couldn't believe what she was hearing. Her simple act of kindness was now the center of some dangerous secret. Her thoughts raced. What had she gotten herself into? The stranger stepped even closer, and Mia instinctively took another step back, her hands gripping the edge of her desk for support. "I need you to tell me everything you know about him. Where did you see him? What did he say? What did he look like?" Mia felt trapped. She didn't know what to say. She hadn't even gotten the man's name. She only remembered the way he had smiled gratefully, his eyes shining with gratitude as he accepted her sandwich. She didn't know what more there was to tell. I don't know," Mia said quietly. "He was just a man who needed help. I didn't ask questions." The man's eyes narrowed slightly. "That's the problem, Mia. You should have asked questions." His voice grew more urgent. "Do you have any idea who he might really be, or who he was talking to?" Mia shook her head, her mind racing. She felt as though she was drowning in confusion. This wasn't what she had signed up for. All she had wanted to do was help. But now she felt like she was at the center of something far more complicated and dangerous than she could have ever imagined. The stranger seemed to sense her fear and stepped back, his expression softening. "Look, Mia, you're in this now, whether you like it or not. I need your help to make sure no one else gets hurt. I know you don't understand, but trust me when I say that this is important." Before Mia could respond, The sound of a car engine outside caught her attention. She turned toward the window and saw the same black SUV that had been parked outside her house all day. The man was still standing by the vehicle, but now he wasn't alone. Another person was with him, someone Mia had never seen before, wearing a suit just like his. Mia's stomach twisted. She felt like she was being watched. She was trapped in a whirlwind of confusion and fear, unsure who to trust or where to turn. The man in the dark suit had told her that she was now involved in something much bigger, but she still didn't know what that something was. The man by the SUV was talking to the new figure, and Mia could see them looking up at her window. Her heart skipped a beat. They were watching her. But why? What did they want from her? The stranger in her room seemed to notice her growing panic. "Listen to me, Mia," he said in a calm but serious tone. "I know this is scary, but you need to stay calm. You're safe for now, but if you want to keep it that way, you have to trust me. I'm not here to hurt you. I'm here to help." Mia felt a knot form in her stomach. She didn't know if she could trust this man. But one thing was clear. Her simple act of kindness had brought her into a situation that she couldn't escape from. And whatever was happening, it wasn't just about the homeless man. It was about something much, much bigger. Her phone buzzed, interrupting the silence. She glanced at the screen. It was a message from her mom. "Stay inside. The cops are coming back. Don't open the door unless you see me first." Mia's hands went cold. The cops. Again. What was going on? Before she could reply, there was another knock at the door. Mia's heart raced as she glanced toward the man in the suit. This time, it wasn't just a visit. It was a warning. The danger unfolds. Mia's heart raced as the knock on the door grew louder. It wasn't just a simple knock this time. It felt urgent, as if someone was demanding her attention. She looked toward the man in the dark suit, whose expression had become even more serious. His eyes were fixed on the door, and for the first time, Mia saw a flicker of fear in his gaze. This wasn't just some random visit. It was much more than that. "Do not open that door," the man said quickly, his voice sharp with authority. Mia froze. Her mind was spinning, and she wasn't sure what was happening anymore. What was so urgent about a knock at her door? Why was he so worried? The knock came again, louder this time. Mia's hands trembled as she took a cautious step toward the door, her heart pounding in her chest. She knew it had to be the police, the same officers who had come earlier. She felt a deep unease settling in her stomach. Everything was moving too fast, and she didn't know who to trust. The man in the suit seemed to read her thoughts. He stepped forward and placed a hand on her shoulder, guiding her away from the door. "Mia, listen to me," he urged, his voice low but firm. "This is not what you think. You're in danger, and if you open that door, you could make things worse. You've unknowingly stepped into something much bigger than you could have ever imagined. The police aren't here to help. They're part of it. They're working with them." Mia's breath caught in her throat. "What? What do you mean they're working with them?" The man's expression darkened. "You've seen too much, Mia. They know that. They'll do anything to keep you quiet, but they can't know you're onto them. Not yet." Mia's mind reeled as she processed his words. How could the police be involved in this? She had always trusted the authorities, but now everything felt like a lie. The more she thought about it, the more she realized how little she actually knew about the situation. She had no idea who the homeless man really was, or why he was so important. She only knew that her kind gesture was now spiraling into something terrifying and out of control. The knock at the door grew louder again. But this time, Mia didn't feel like she could ignore it. Her curiosity and fear were eating at her, and she had to know what was happening. She needed answers. "I have to know who it is," Mia said, her voice trembling with uncertainty. The man in the suit sighed, his face filled with concern. "You don't have time for that, Mia. If you open that door, you're putting yourself and everyone you care about in danger. Please, trust me." Mia's hand hovered over the door handle, but she hesitated. What if he was right? What if opening the door was a mistake? But then again, what was worse, the police at her door, or the unknown danger that this man was warning her about? She couldn't make sense of it. Her mind was a whirlwind of fear, confusion, and urgency. "Mia," the man said, his voice steady but urgent. "The police can't help you right now. If you let them in, they'll take you, and you'll never see the truth. They're part of a much bigger operation. The man you helped, he's not who he says he is. There's a reason why they're all looking for him. And by helping him, you've become a target." Mia's breath caught in her throat. She turned away from the door and backed up, her hands shaking. She didn't know who to believe, but everything about the situation felt wrong. Her gut told her that this man was telling the truth, but she couldn't be sure. The knock at the door echoed in her mind, and she was torn. Was she making the right choice by listening to him, or was she making a mistake that would cost her everything? The man took a step closer to her, his face softened with empathy. "I know this is hard, but you have to trust me. I'm here to protect you. But you have to follow my lead. Right now, you can't let anyone else know what you know. If the cops come in, they'll find out, and everything will be over." Mia felt a sense of dread settling over her. She had never been this scared in her life. The idea that the police, people she had always trusted, could be part of something dangerous sent a shiver down her spine. But she didn't have a choice. She had to figure out the truth, and she had to do it quickly. "Then what do we do?" Maya asked, her voice small. "What happens now?" The man's eyes scanned the room, calculating. "Now, we need to hide. I'll make sure you're safe, but you have to stay quiet and stay hidden. Don't answer the door. Don't trust anyone, not even the cops. They'll come looking for you, but they won't find you. I'll make sure of that." Mia nodded, her stomach turning. She didn't know who to trust anymore, but she knew one thing. She was in this now, and there was no turning back. Whatever had started with a simple act of kindness was now a fight for survival. She could only hope that she wasn't making a mistake by trusting this stranger. The knock at the door came again, more forcefully this time. Maya's heart hammered in her chest as she took one last look at the man in the suit. She had no idea what was about to happen, but she knew she had to be ready for whatever came next. As the door handle rattled, she held her breath. The unsettling truth. The knock at the door grew louder, and Mia could hear her heartbeat thumping in her ears. The man in the suit, whose name Maya still didn't know, stood next to her, his posture rigid. His eyes were trained on the door, his face tense, as if every second counted. Mia couldn't breathe. She felt trapped, unsure of what to do. "Don't answer it," the man said again, his voice calm but firm. Mia's mind was a whirlwind. She wanted to believe him, but she was terrified. Every instinct told her that opening that door might lead to something terrible, but could she really stay hidden like this? What if the police were just doing their job? What if she was overreacting? She had helped someone in need, and now her life was spiraling out of control. Another loud knock echoed through the room. "I can't just hide," Mia whispered, more to herself than to him. "What if they need help? What if they're not here to hurt me?" The man placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder, but his eyes never left the door. "Mia, please trust me. They're not here to help. They're part of something much bigger, and if you open that door, you'll be in danger. You're dealing with people who will stop at nothing to protect their secrets. This isn't just about you. It's about the people who are controlling everything behind the scenes." Mia's heart pounded as the weight of his words sank in. She had no idea what this man was talking about, but there was something in his eyes, a deep, unspoken truth that made her believe him. "I don't understand," she said, her voice shaking. "What do you mean? What do you know about this?" The man exhaled slowly, then looked her square in the eyes. "The man you helped, he's not just some homeless person. He's involved in something far more dangerous. And now, because you've shown him kindness, You're in their sights. You're part of something much bigger, Mia. You didn't just give a sandwich to a stranger. You've unknowingly become a player in a game you didn't choose to be in. Mia's mind spun with confusion. But he seemed like a normal man. I didn't know. I just saw someone who needed food. That's the point, the man replied, his voice grim. They've been using people like you, people who just want to help. They exploit your kindness, and now you're part of their plan. The door shook as another knock echoed through the hallway. Maya felt like she was suffocating. Everything she thought she knew about the world was suddenly turned upside down. She had always believed that helping people was the right thing to do, but now she wasn't so sure. Mia, the man said, pulling her attention back to him. I know this is hard to understand, but there's more at stake here than just you. These people have been operating in the shadows for years. They've controlled so many lives. They have resources, power, and they'll stop at nothing to protect themselves. Mia could barely wrap her mind around it. She thought about the homeless man, the man she had fed. His face flashed in her memory, his eyes filled with gratitude. He hadn't seemed dangerous. But now, everything felt different. The knocking stopped suddenly, leaving the air heavy with silence. Mia held her breath, waiting for what might come next. Do you trust me? The man asked quietly, his eyes soft but urgent. Mia stared at him, weighing her options. Her heart was racing, her thoughts in turmoil. She didn't know who this man really was, and she didn't understand the danger she was in. But somehow, she knew she couldn't face this alone. Yes, she whispered, her voice barely audible. I trust you. The man nodded, his expression solemn. Then we need to leave. Now. Mia's stomach twisted. Leave? But what about the police? He gave her a pointed look, his eyes full of urgency. The police are not your friends right now. You need to come with me. There's no time to waste. Before Maya could respond, there was a sound from outside the door, a low, ominous thud. She jumped at the noise, her heart leaping into her throat. It was followed by the sound of voices, muffled but growing louder. She could hear the unmistakable sound of footsteps. The man's grip on her shoulder tightened, and he pulled her away from the door. We need to move now. Follow me. Mia didn't have time to think. She followed him as he led her toward the back door, his hand firm on her arm. As they made their way through the house, she couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. Every step felt like it was leading her deeper into a world she didn't understand. Her mind raced, trying to piece everything together. The homeless man, the police, the stranger in her house. Nothing made sense anymore. But what was clear was this: her life had just changed forever, and there was no going back. The escape plan. Mia's pulse raced as she followed the man through the dimly lit hallway. She could hear muffled voices outside, the police now so close that she could almost feel their presence like an oppressive weight. Every creak of the floorboards beneath her feet made her heart skip a beat. The man moved swiftly, but Mia's mind was spinning. She couldn't grasp everything he was saying. It was too much, too fast. Why do they want me? I just helped someone, she whispered, her voice barely audible. She didn't understand why this was happening to her. Her life had been simple until now. She had always believed that helping others was the right thing to do. But now, it seemed like her kindness had somehow trapped her in a web of lies and danger. The man turned to her briefly, his face serious. They don't want you, Mia. They want the man you helped. But since you gave him food, you're now in the game. And when they target someone, they don't stop. Not until they get what they want. Mia's stomach churned. What do they want from him? From me. Information. Secrets, he said in a low, urgent tone. It's complicated, but you need to trust me, Mia. Everything you know about the world is about to change. Mia didn't know whether to feel scared or angry. She had been helping someone who was in need, someone who was starving. Now she was being pulled into a world of secrets, lies, and danger that she didn't ask for. She had no idea who she could trust, and it seemed like everyone around her was a part of something she couldn't understand. The man stopped in front of the back door, which led out into the alley behind her house. He glanced through the small window by the door, his eyes scanning the yard carefully before turning back to Mia. "You need to go now," he said firmly. "They're getting closer. If you don't leave now, they'll be inside your house soon, and it won't be just the police at the door. You'll be in danger." Mia nodded, her heart racing. She couldn't stay here. She couldn't let them get her, especially if they were after the man she helped. She glanced back at the front of the house, her thoughts clouded. She had been just a normal girl trying to do the right thing. Now her life was at risk. The man pushed open the back door, and cold night air hit Mia's face. She shivered but stepped outside. He held the door open for her, then quickly shut it behind him. "Where are we going?" Maya asked, her voice barely a whisper as they moved swiftly across the yard. "Staying in the shadows." "Where are you taking me?" The man didn't respond right away. He was focused, eyes darting around as he led her through the dark alley. Mia could hear the faint sounds of sirens in the distance, and the adrenaline in her veins made everything feel sharp, like the world around her was moving in slow motion. "We're going to a safe house," he finally said, his voice grim. "It's the only place you'll be safe for now. We can't stay here. It's too risky. But trust me, we'll be out of harm's way for a while." Mia's mind raced. Safe house. How was this even real? It all felt like a nightmare, something she might wake up from at any second. But this was happening. The danger was real. She couldn't go back. As they reached the end of the alley, the man stopped and turned to her. "Listen to me carefully, Mia," he said, his voice serious. "When we get to the safe house, you can't tell anyone where you are. Not your family, not your friends. They're watching everyone around you. The fewer people who know your location, the safer you'll be." Mia swallowed hard. "I don't know who to trust anymore. How do I know I can trust you?" The man's eyes softened for a moment, though the urgency never left his voice. "You don't have much of a choice, Mia. I'm the only one who can protect you right now." She nodded slowly, but her thoughts were still in chaos. How had her simple act of kindness led to all this? How had feeding a stranger changed her life so completely? She had no answers, and the more she tried to make sense of it, the more questions piled up. They continued walking, the night growing colder, but Mia was too lost in her thoughts to notice. She had no idea where they were headed, but she had to trust that this man was right. He was her only chance at survival right now. As they moved deeper into the city, Mia couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching them. Every shadow seemed to hide a secret. Every noise seemed to echo with danger. It was like the walls themselves were closing in. The man stopped abruptly, turning to look down at Mia. "We need to hurry. They're not far behind us." Mia's heart skipped a beat. The police were coming. Her mind flashed back to the knock on her door, the urgency in the man's voice. She had no time to waste. With one last look at her surroundings, Maya followed the man as he led her toward their next destination, her heart pounding in her chest. Would she ever be able to live a normal life again? Or was she forever going to be trapped in a world of secrets and shadows? The shocking truth. Mia's feet moved quickly, barely touching the ground as the man guided her through the winding streets. The night was colder now, and the silence in the air felt thick, as if it were holding its breath. Mia's heart pounded in her chest with every step they took, the fear of being caught gnawing at her. She kept glancing over her shoulder, certain that someone was following them. The man beside her seemed calm, but his eyes were sharp, always scanning their surroundings. Mia tried to focus on what he was saying, but her thoughts kept drifting back to the one question that haunted her. Why was this happening to her? As they reached the edge of the city, Mia could see a small, run-down building in the distance, nestled between two larger, more modern structures. It was the kind of place that blended in, unnoticed by most, But it was here that the man claimed she would be safe. Her mind raced with confusion. This was all happening so fast, and she still didn't understand who was after her, or why her simple act of kindness had led to so much trouble. The man led her up to the door of the building and knocked 3 times in a rhythmic pattern. A moment later, the door creaked open, revealing a tall figure standing in the dim light of the hallway. The man beside Mia exchanged a few brief words with the figure, and without hesitation, they stepped inside. The air in the building was musty, and the faint smell of old wood mixed with the scent of something unfamiliar, something that made Mia uneasy. She stepped in slowly, her eyes adjusting to the low light. The man who had been guiding her was already speaking to the person inside, but Mia barely heard his words. She was too distracted by the strange, uneasy feeling in her gut. "Everything's set," the man said, his voice low but firm. "She'll be safe here for now." The figure nodded but didn't speak right away. Instead, the figure looked directly at Mia with an intensity that made her feel like they could see right through her. For the first time since all of this had started, Mia felt a flicker of hope. Maybe this place was a real safe haven. But then the man who had been guiding her turned to her with a grim expression, his face shadowed in the dim light. "Mia," he said, his voice serious, "I need to tell you something important. You've been caught in something much bigger than you realize. It's not just the police looking for you. There are other people, dangerous people, who want you for what you know." Mia's heart skipped a beat. "What do you mean?" "I don't know anything. I just gave a man a sandwich. That's all. Why is this happening to me?" The man sighed deeply, as if the weight of the truth was heavy on his shoulders. He stepped closer, lowering his voice even further. "The man you helped. He's not just a homeless man. He's a key figure in a much larger operation, one that goes deeper than anything you could ever imagine. And now that you've helped him, they think you know something, or that you can lead them to him. The truth is, Mia, you're caught in a web of power, corruption, and secrets that go all the way to the top." Mia's mind was spinning. This couldn't be real. How could she, just a girl who had tried to do a good deed, be involved in something so huge, so dangerous? "But I don't know anything," Mia protested, her voice shaking. "I just gave him food. That's it." "I know," the man said, his eyes filled with sympathy. "But sometimes people like you, people who do good, are the ones they target. They'll do anything to get what they want, Mia. And now, they think you have the answers." Mia felt a surge of panic rise within her chest. This was too much to handle. She had no idea how to process all of this. How had her life gone from a simple act of kindness to this nightmare? She didn't know who to trust anymore. And every person who had come into her life seemed to be involved in some secret world she didn't understand. The man placed a hand on her shoulder, his grip firm but reassuring. "Listen to me, Mia. There's only one way out of this. You need to stay hidden, stay quiet, and never let anyone know where you are. The people looking for you are dangerous, and they won't stop until they get what they want. But the longer you stay in the shadows, the safer you'll be." Mia nodded slowly, but the truth of his words hit her like a brick. She was trapped. The life she had known was gone, replaced by a world of lies and danger. She didn't know if she could trust anyone anymore, but the man who had saved her tonight was her only lifeline. For now, she had to follow his lead. But the fear in her chest wasn't fading. It was growing stronger. "How long will I have to stay here?" Maya asked, her voice barely more than a whisper. "Until we figure out what to do next," the man said, his tone softening. "But I promise you, Mia, we'll get through this. You're not alone anymore." As the door closed behind them, Mia felt the weight of everything pressing down on her. She had no choice now but to trust the people around her, even if she wasn't sure who they truly were. All she knew was that her life had changed forever, and she was about to find out just how deep this dangerous game went.